Morning, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for coming. So glad you're here. Today, as Father Peter was giving his homily, it was one of those homilies for me where I looked around and I wondered, why is everyone else here? Because Father Peter's clearly talking just to me. Do you ever have that happen to you? Because I'm like, okay, I needed this homily so bad. I'm not sure I've taken a breath in 2 days. Just been in a mode of survival. So I'm just going to invite everyone to close their eyes and just take a couple deep breaths, probably more because I need it more than anyone. But let's just close our eyes and just take a couple deep breaths. Thank you. It was just a lovely reminder he gave us to stop and to turn to him in all our busyness, because we as women are busy, but we are very busy in this season. It starts at Thanksgiving, and I'm not sure that it ends till after Christmas. So just a great reminder to stop and turn to him. So thank you for that, Father Peter. If you didn't get a handout, we have handouts by the font. We have a door prize every week that Terry Beinlich, that Terry Beinlich has made and donated, and I drew a smiley face on the back of one of the handouts. So if you have a smiley face on the back of your handout, you're this week's door prize winner. Anybody get it? Raise your hand. Great. It's right on the font back there that you can pick up after Mass, so awesome. Just a quick thank you to Nancy, Marie, Janet. Without them, none of this would happen. So if you see them in your journey throughout the weeks, please thank them, because they do all the behind-the-scenes stuff and they make this possible. And then to Clara Grismer for the beautiful music, her talents that she shares with us that just enriched this time for us. We're just so grateful. And then I'd like to give a quick shout out to Jaden, if she's still here. Jaden, she spoke last week. She said yes to something that she wasn't comfortable with doing. She wasn't excited about doing it, but she thought about it, she prayed about it, and she felt called to do it. And it was just a beautiful blessing to those who were here last week. I've thought about the story that she shared about Rose. That has touched me so many times throughout the week, so I'm just so grateful, Jaden, that you said yes. Nancy recorded her talk. She'll record the talk today, and she's going to record Marlis's talk next week, and all three of them will be posted on the Facebook page after the series is done. So if you weren't able to hear it, you will be able to hear it eventually. So thank you, Nancy, for doing that. So yes, just thankful to the women who say yes, because without them, we have nothing. And then without further ado, today's speaker is Cassie O'Hare, and I met Cassie a couple years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, Broomtree on a silent retreat, but I'd seen her many times in daily Mass. And the reason I noticed her is because she has 4 young kids that she brought to daily Mass every day, which just absolutely blew my mind. I have 4 kids. I wasn't bringing them to daily Mass. I could barely get breakfast on the table. So kudos to Cassie and all the young moms who bring their kids to Mass, because that's amazing. So Cassie said yes, and we are so grateful for her yes, and so I will let her get started and just enjoy your day. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Oh, great. Well, good morning. Good morning. I'm Cassie O'Hare, and let's see, my husband Jonathan and I have been members here at St. Ambrose, I think for almost 4 years now, so next spring. We have 4 kids, 2 boys and 2 girls, like Aaron said, from the ages of 12 all the way down to 3.5. And currently, our 2 daughters attend school here at St. Ambrose. Like Aaron said, some of your faces look very familiar from Mass, so it's great to see you today. This morning, I'm going to share a little bit with you about the gift of joy. So we ask ourselves, where does joy come from? And what is joy? Joy is a fruit of the Spirit. And we know that when we read through Galatians, it's listed there with all the other fruits of the Spirit. It comes from God alone, because He is our only source of joy, and the only source of joy. And it doesn't come from any work of ours, and it's freely given to us. Joy lies in the sanctity of loving God with your whole heart and loving your neighbor as yourself. Joy is also different from happiness. And oftentimes, our society tends to confuse the two. We tend to interchange them, but there is a difference. Happiness is based on circumstances, like a promotion, a status, an accomplishment, a task, a possession. It's temporary. And remember, joy comes from God alone. So in some ways, you can kind of see how joy and love are kind of related. Tomorrow, we begin the third week of Advent. And the church invites us to set aside some time and reflect on the gift of joy, the same joy the shepherds experienced when they met the angel. On your handout, you'll see the verse from Luke. It says, "An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, 'Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all people.'" And this news, of course, is Jesus, right? The Savior, the Lord, and the Messiah. These shepherds have been waiting and waiting from the prophecies. And then, in an act of faith, they go out and they seek Jesus because they choose to trust the angel. And one of the beautiful things about this passage is that their fear turns to joy. Their joy is in choosing to trust the angel and, seek the infant Jesus. We can also see this act of faith carried out with Our Lady Mary when she meets the angel Gabriel, right? She gives her fiat, she surrenders, and then she receives Christ, who is our ultimate joy and our salvation. Unlike Eve, who grasps at the fruit, right? She's tricked by Satan with the lie, like, can you really trust God? So this leads me to my next point, that with an act of trust, you can experience joy in difficult situations. We see this in the saints. St. James is a beautiful example of this. He says, "Consider it all joy, my brothers, when you encounter various trials, for you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance." St. James says this as an encouragement to us because he knows that all humankind will experience hardships. And he's able to say this because he knows of the love of Christ, right? Father Peter talked about this earlier. Keep your gaze on Christ. And St. James is able to, experience these trials because he is fixed on the Lord. This past winter, after the holidays, it was probably the end of January, I was really struggling with mental health. I struggle a lot with anxiety and depression. And it just so happened to be really just a series of things, but then one day, it just all came dumpling down when I fell on my driveway. I was shoveling it, and I slipped on ice, and I ended up having a concussion and chipping 2 of my front teeth. And I also had this tremor in my eye, which was affecting my vision, and then a series of migraines. And so when I went to the doctor, my doctor ordered complete rest and refraining from all activities. And I just looked at him like, no, I don't think that's gonna work out really well. Like, we have a family this is not planned. We did not plan for this. And I was really struggling. And against my will, I was forced into this place of resting, and I really needed to accept help. So I had to receive a couple meals, I should say I got to receive a couple meals. It was a gift. But I had to allow the house to get messy. I had to allow my husband to come home from work earlier and care for the household. And so things didn't quite run as smoothly as I envisioned them. And on top of it, he was driving me to all my doctor's appointments. So anyways, it really provided a pivotal moment for me to have a mind shift and really just invite the Lord into this place of struggle for me. And as I was sitting there praying, the verse from John's gospel popped into my head, "Abide in me." And I started thinking about where Jesus talks about being the vine and we are the branches, and we're supposed to remain in him, right? Apart from him, we can do nothing. And I thought about the love that Jesus talks about, right? Love one another as the Father loves me. And I was not being very loving to my family members in my distress. And so I just invited the Lord into that place and chose to surrender. It was really just in knowing that the Lord was with me in that, and that no matter what happened, no matter what the outcome was, that I could get through this with him. And it really provided an opportunity for me to just offer up my little sufferings and practice the gifts of gentleness and patience with myself and my kids. So, let's see. So third and finally, I want to talk about joy being found in gratitude. We see this in Luke's Gospel at the visitation with St. Elizabeth when she greets Mary. And the baby, John the Baptist, leaps for joy in Elizabeth's womb. And Elizabeth is filled with the Holy Spirit. John leaps for joy because he recognizes the presence of Jesus within Mary. And it's just beautiful if you think about that. He's already paving the way for Jesus. I was just kind of touched by it, honestly. I just want to close with the story about how last week, maybe it was a week and a half ago, where I was able to witness joy through gratitude. And last week I started wrapping a couple of Christmas presents, trying not to be in the survival mode, but I was like, okay, I'm going to make a little bit of a dent here. And my son Benjamin, who is 3, came up to me and of course saw me wrapping the gifts and wanted to wrap a gift himself. So I gave him the packaging that the gifts came in. So you can imagine, I gave him this box. And of course he wanted some wrapping paper, so I gave him a piece. And you can see he wanted a couple different colors. So he started cutting it into millions of different pieces, making a huge mess. And then he picked up a glue stick and started pasting it all over the box. And I was like, oh. And as I was watching him, he chose to use the pink styrofoam packaging and crumpling it all up everywhere, making another huge mess. And he placed it in the box. And when he was done, he put a label on it, and then he asked me for some help. And I was like, oh, so, who's the gift for? Is it for me? Is it for Daddy? Who's it for? And he's like, no. And I was like, well, who's it for? He goes, it's for Santa. And I said, oh, why does Santa need a gift? And he said, I want to give Santa a gift because he gives gifts to everyone, and I know he wants one too. And so after I was helping him write Santa on the label and writing his name, he finishes taping it up and he says, oh, thanks, Mom. It looks so great. I hope he likes it. And I was kind of confused at first as he was putting the confetti in there, the pink styrofoam, but I guess when you're 3, you think that's a great gift. But I couldn't help but reflect on a little bit of joy and gratitude because more than anything, it just moved me to know that my 3-year-old was willing to and could move beyond himself and think of someone else. But then it also moved me to a deeper place of reflecting on, do I give thanks to God for wrapping paper and pink styrofoam packaging, and the ability to give, the opportunities to give. His little way just inspired me to think a little bit more, to slow down in the season of Advent, and really just reflect on the beauty and the gift of gratitude in the little things. So my hope this morning is that you are encouraged to take time and just receive the joy that the Lord wants you to receive. We are created for joy, and maybe it's in an act of trust like the shepherds, where you seek out the infant Jesus and reflect on those different ways. And if you're struggling, I just want to gently encourage you to invite the Lord into that space. He does see you, and he loves you dearly, and he knows. Or maybe you just want to start with a simple list of gratitude and just start reflecting on the different ways the Lord has blessed you. Thank you.